Good morning. Today is day 4 of our trustworthy study, and today's title is Why Did God Lead Me Here? I think this is a question that if we look back, we can find that we've asked ourselves time and time again, and that can be in various ways. I know for myself, it's either been, why God, why would you lead me here? Like, this is awful, this is painful, this is nowhere I would have gone on my own, I would have done things differently. But it can also be, Lord, why am I here? What's the purpose of this? And just kind of a way of asking Him to reveal Himself to us and show us the purpose of our trial and how we can grow through our trial. And so I thought that Lisa did an excellent job, as always, with her devotion and just sharing her heart with us and giving us a lot of insight into what fear is and how we can trust the Lord through it and why we can trust the Lord. A lot of building of the character of the Lord so that we can see Him the way that we were meant to, and we can grow through that. So today's passage is Psalm 23, 1 through 3. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside still waters. He restores my soul. And a shepherd is one who guides and leads his flock. He protects them at all costs and provides for their every need. And we're told in Scripture several times that the Lord is our good shepherd and that He laid down His life for us, and that we as His sheep, those who put their trust in Him, both know His voice and follow Him. John 10:11 says, I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd lays down his life for the sheep. And John 10:14, I am the good shepherd. I know my own, and my own know me. So God laid down His life for us through His Son, Jesus. I think this is the ultimate way that we can know we can trust Him. I mean, we put our trust in our lives and our salvation in His hands, and we believe that He will save us. And if we believe that He's going to save us, why don't we believe Him in every other area of our lives? That's just the ultimate way that we know that we can put our trust in the Lord. There are times in life where we can find ourselves in impossible circumstances, painful seasons, and devastating long roads that seem will never end. I definitely know that I've been in all of those places in my life, and I know that in those moments it's really easy to question God's goodness. It's really easy to wonder, why, God, if all of these things are in your hands, why would you lead me here? Why, if these are all under your control, are you taking me into a place that's so painful, that seems never ending? And just to have those questions on our hearts and our minds of what is God doing and why is He doing it? After all, I think we feel as though, shouldn't God protect us from that kind of pain? Doesn't He love us enough to protect us from this? And we get the wrong ideas in our head of what love is and what we need. We have to remember that God knows and will meet our every need, and that I've realized in my life very recently, what I think I need is not what God knows that I need. He usually knows that I need things that I would never say that I need for myself. And those usually come from hard trials, hard situations, and seasons of life that just seem absolutely impossible, as when we cultivate those fruits of the Spirit. But it's in exactly those moments of questioning that we do have to choose to remember to believe all that we know is true about God, to believe His character, to dig in the Word and study His character so that we can come to know it well and we can see who He is. We need to be able to speak truth to the lies that are saying anything less than God is good. We need to know those truths, and we need to speak truth to the lies so that those lies can be shut down. And we need to choose to believe and trust in God. We need to believe that His timing and His plans are good and they're perfect and they're above any plan that we would have for ourselves, and the timing that we would have for ourselves as well. Just that constant reminder of His thoughts and His ways are higher than ours. And that just keeps coming to my heart and my mind over and over again as we go through this study. So I too, like Lisa, have been more blessed and humbled in darkness than I ever could have imagined. That's not something that you think about when you're in the midst of your dark trials. You're not like, oh, this is this horrible, awful, dark trial, but I'm going to be so blessed, and this is going to be so great in the end. It's something that takes a little bit of time, even through each trial. I think as I've grown in my walk and in my journey with the Lord, that I can get in the beginning of a trial, and there's a part of me that knows, like, okay, God's doing something here. This is going to be used for good, and I know that, and I do believe it. But it takes time going through those trials to strengthen that within my heart, to see that and to find joy in my trials. But I've definitely been very humbled and very blessed through all of them. and the Lord always giving me what I need to grow me in my faith. And there's still a very, very, very long way to go. So I know there's going to be many more trials to come, but we can find those blessings in the midst of our darkness and trials. And so within those darknesses, those difficult places, the fiery furnace, what have you, that's where we need God the most, and it's where we grow more and more spiritually the most. So those are seasons that God really uses to instill who He is within us and to keep us trusting in Him and to grow our faith within Him. So they're all very necessary, and we will find ourselves in those seasons somewhat often, just because the Lord wants to grow our relationship with Him, and He knows that those are the times that we're going to stay closest to Him and that we're going to need Him the most. When things are going good and great, I know I find myself not as deep in my prayer life, as deep in my studies, leaning on Him the way that I do when I'm in those trials and circumstances. Isaiah 48:10 says, "Behold, I have refined you, but not as silver. I have tested you in the furnace of affliction." And then Romans 8:28 reminds us that we know for those who love God, all things work together for good, for those who are called according to His purposes. So again, there's nothing wasted by the Lord. Every single thing that we go through, every single step of our lives is used by Him for His purposes. And it is in that furnace of affliction where God tests us, that He refines us, and that He makes us more like His Son. So we can see through the Word that these are things that are going to occur in our lives, but that God has a good purpose for them. Even David, I really liked how she went into the comparison or the contrast rather between Psalm 22 and Psalm 23. So even David, who wrote Psalm 23, he suffered greatly, and in that suffering he questioned and he doubted. He was raw and he was honest with the Lord, and we should be too. We should be honest with those feelings coming to the Lord, and just like David did. He says just one chapter prior to Psalm 23, in Psalm 22:1, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from saving me, from my words of my groaning?" And that really hits close to home for me for ways that I've felt before. But it also immediately brings to mind Deuteronomy 3:16, which says, "Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you or forsake you." And I know that I've definitely felt forsaken and abandoned by the Lord in the middle of my trials, in the middle of my valleys, a time or two, 3, 4 maybe. It's definitely a feeling that I am familiar with. But I do know when those thoughts and those feelings rise up, I can shout God's truth to the lies that are surrounding me. And that's just a really great way, within Scripture itself, just to see that you can have God's promises there to speak truth to the lies that are going to overwhelm us at times. In the valley, we don't have to fear. We instead know that God is with us and that He only leads us where necessary. Like I said before, everything is purposeful. We can trust Him to do good work in the places of suffering, and we can know that we're only going to be in those places for a season. God has a time and a purpose in every season. They're all for a reason, and nothing is going to, come that He doesn't allow for His good purposes. And 1 Peter 5:10 reminds us that after you have suffered a little while, the God of all grace, who has called you to His eternal glory in Christ, will Himself restore, confirm, strengthen, and establish you. And I really like that verse. That verse is very promising that, again, like our places of suffering are just for a season, and that God has a plan, and that He's going to restore us and confirm us and strengthen us and establish us. And that's just a really great promise to hold on to during times of hardship. So God never leads us carelessly, but is always intentional. And those were the 2 points that Lisa made in the devotion today regarding when we're in the valleys of our suffering. The rest that our soul longs for and the comfort we seek, especially in our darkest seasons of life, are found not in the things of this world, but by Jesus alone. There's so many things that we can look to and turn to for comfort other than the Lord. And I know throughout my life, God slowly but surely pulled away a lot of those things and just showed me in my heart, like you're turning to, these things for comfort, and I am your comfort. And it's in the valley where we often find all that we need for our comfort, even if it's not comfortable at the time. I really resonated and liked what Lisa said I just have a part of her quote here. It just says, in order to get to the water and vegetation waiting in the valley below. So even though the valley is one of the hardest places that we can be in, and in our own hearts we think it's the worst place that we could be, God knows that it's in the valley where we will find all that we need. And I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not typically going to go wandering into a valley to find the things that I need, but God leads us there because he knows that's what we need. The sheep need their water and their vegetation, and that's found in the valley. And so the Lord leads them there. He takes them there. Us, the sheep, we're the sheep. I got a little carried away with thinking about like real sheep, and I don't think I translated that well. But so it's even the rocky paths to get us to the valley that the Lord has to carefully lead us through, and the shepherd has to lead the sheep through. They're very rocky and hard to travel, and if you're not careful, there's a lot of dangers that could come. But the Lord is very intentional, and he's not careless in his leading of us. And our shepherd is with us. He's with us. He's leading us every single step of the way. So we need to let him lead and not attempt to take the reins. And I know that if you're like myself with a struggle to control, that's really hard not to do. If I see something dangerous coming my way, or maybe I see something I think looks interesting and I want to go astray. But the Lord knows best. And anytime Amanda tries to take the reins, things don't go so well. So I know that I need to focus in on realizing that he is our good shepherd, knows the way that we need to go. He knows the path that he's leading us on. And I need to be more apt to just look to him, keep my eyes fixed on him, and follow him rather than what I think is best. And Lisa also said in the devotion, we have to trust that his timing is perfect and his provision is good. And that sounds really easy to just say, like, oh yeah, I trust in his timing. It's perfect and the Lord is good. It's really easy to say that to somebody else in the midst of their trial. But I think when we're in our own season and in our own trials, and someone says that to us, or we're trying to speak that truth, it can be really difficult. But it is true, and we have to keep reminding ourselves of that time and time again. The Lord's intentions in our trials are good. He will be glorified, and we will be made more faithful in our trials as we trust in him. And we can find that promise through 1 Peter 1:6-7, which says, in this you rejoice, though now for a little while, if necessary, you have been grieved by various trials, so that the tested genuineness of your faith, more precious than gold, that perishes through it, is tested by fire, may be found to result in praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. And I just think that when we really look at that, we can just see that for a little while we're going to go through various hard, difficult trials, and we're going to be tested. Our faith is going to be tested to make sure that it stands firm and it stands true. But in the end, God is going to be glorified for that faith that stands true and stands firm. And we're going to get to be with Jesus. We're going to get to be with him in all of his glory and honor. So it's all going to be worth it in the end. It's absolutely not wasted. Also, another point that Lisa had made in here, that it's going to seem like an awkward transition. So even as I wrote my notes and I was like reading them again yesterday, I'm like, this is a really awkward transition. So just bear with me. We're going to kind of like take a 180 here. So while it is the Lord who is with us, never leaving us or forsaking us, leading us in and through the rocky paths and the valleys, we weren't made to do life alone. We were made to do life in community with one another, to be with each other, to lift each other up through our valleys and our trials, and to speak truth and life into one another, and to just be there for each other. So we need to come together in community, and we need to learn from those who have gone before us. And I think that's something that seems to be really lost today. I don't know. I look at just like the younger generation, and they don't want to learn. They don't want to have anybody telling them what's best or what they've done. Or I know that that's something that I've struggled with in my life in the past. Now I'm like, oh gosh, just tell me, like, please, somebody like come alongside and help me and show me how to do this thing. But I know that in my past, I've been more apt to just kind of want to learn the hard way and do things on my own. And I think that's super dangerous way to think. I know it was for me, because I ended up always having to learn the hard way, and it would have been so much better if I just would have allowed those, older women in my life and those people that wanted to come alongside me and show me and teach me. If I would have allowed them in, I would have saved myself from a lot of heartache. And I know now, even as a believer, like just to have seeing what works for others and coming alongside and learning is what is needed, because people have gone there before us and we need to learn and grow together. I lost my spot. So yeah, we need to learn from those who have gone before us. We need to mimic their past that teach us how to remain in those regular rhythms of relationship with God. I really liked how Lisa talked about the ruts in the road. And like, I think when I hear the word rut, like I'm stuck in a rut, like that doesn't sound pleasant. That doesn't sound good. It doesn't sound like somewhere I want to be. But the way that she described it, that it was actually a good rut. It just meant that, that the shepherds were leading their flock in the same patterns and the same paths, over and over again for generations. So the generations after them saw what the generations before did, and they saw the wisdom in how they were leading their flock, and they decided to follow that same path rather than, Lisa describes, like going up and over the mountain and how dangerous that could be. It seems great because it's the easy, quick way. Like, I'm just going to go up, I'm going to go over, I'm going to get there, and it'll be great. But if that's the decision that we make, then it's going to cause us a lot of difficulty and hardship in our lives, and we're going to miss out on the path that the Lord has instilled for us. Oh, there's my baby girl. She's awake. I'm so sorry. Okay, baby girl. Mommy will be right there. I got to finish this. I'll be right there, okay? Going up in your room. Okay, sweetie. I'll be right there. So sorry for that. Where was I? But yeah, so we want to make sure that we're taking those paths that the Lord has for us, and that we're looking at those who have gone before us, and we're seeing what works for them. So I really liked the way that she showed us that the world is watching us, both believers and unbelievers. And so I really liked the whole point that we can trust God. We can trust that He will always lead us in perfect ways for our goodness and for the sake of His name. And He shows us that in Psalm 23, 3b. It's the end of verse. It looked like it said 36. I'm like, I don't think there's 36 verses there. Anyways, but He leads me in path of righteousness for His name's sake. So his whole main purpose for leading us in those paths is for His name's sake. And so we can trust that His reputation is on the line. He wants to show others in our lives who He is, and that He is good, and regardless of our circumstances. So we can again, not just for the ultimate point that He saved us, trust Him, but we can trust that He wants His name to be glorified, so that we can trust Him in our trials for that purpose of Himself. So today we need to choose to trust the Lord no matter what our circumstances may be. Trust that He is leading you, and everything you experience is purposeful. Our circumstances may seem impossible to change or overcome, but with God, there's always a way. And I always think of that song, You Made a Way Where There Was No Way, and I believe You'll do it again. We need to trust in Him and believe that everything is possible. With this faith the size of a mustard seed, we could move a mountain. And so God is not outside of the realm of being able to do anything in our current circumstances or circumstances that may come. So speaking of, You made a way where there was no way, and I believe You'll do it again. Adria Grace, honey, I need you to go in your room. Mommy will be right there. I'll be right there, sweetheart. Mommy will be right there. Sorry, guys. So today we're on day 4 of our statements that we declare that Jocelyn had mentioned in our previous video. And so I'm going to go ahead and read the declaration, the verse, and the prayer. Today I declare doubt must flee because I am trusting in Your steadfast love for me, knowing You've done it before and You can do it again. And our verse today is Psalm 52, 7 through 9. See the man who would not make God his refuge, but trusted in the abundance of His riches, and sought refuge in his own destruction. But I am like a green olive tree in the house of God. I trust in the steadfast love of God forever and ever. I will thank You forever because You have done it. I will wait for Your name, for it is good in the presence of the godly. God, I confess that sometimes I forget to remember Your faithfulness from the past, especially when I am overwhelmed with unpredictable things in front of me today. But to my mind that bring to my mind that Your steadfast love for me helps me know with confidence You are a safe place for me to process my doubts and fears. I don't know exactly what tomorrow will look like, but I do know who I'll be looking to, You, Lord, whose love is unfailing and whose hand is the safest place to entrust my hope. And that is day 4. You'll have your reflection questions in the email, and this will also be put in there today, the declaration. And Jocelyn will be back with us on Monday to go over day 5. I hope you guys all have a great day and a great weekend, and I hope to talk to you all soon.